as a little girl, I was an observer of what was happening in the kitchen, not much of a participant. And I mostly observed, looked fun to eat, and ate. It wasn't until I was married with a child that I started to take food and the preparation of food seriously and try to remember all the things that I observed as a young person. And I realized that I not only had to be curious, learn, but also create some kind of a written record, so it didn't just live in my head. When I called my grandmother, I lived in Florida at the time, and I called my grandmother and I asked her, how do you make greens? It was a Sunday morning and I was making my Sunday dinner. And she starts telling me the recipe, which included, a pinch and a dash of things. And with no real, for her, it was by feel, right, at that point. And for me, I was trying to remember what I had seen. And I was writing it down and asking for the definitions of a pinch and a dash. And she said to me, Tracie, you better write this down. I'm not going to always be here. Now, in my naivete, I was like, well, where are you going? Right? Like, where are you going? But she's gone from us now, from this earth, and that sticks with me. So it became really important that day and every day since, once I recognized that you have to not just learn, but then teach forward, right? And write it down so that there's a history for the people that come next. And so it was greens. It was collard greens. They were amazing, by the way. They went with the roast and some potatoes, and that was the first culinary experience that was meaningful to me. And the follow-on to that was when I came back home to Houston, I was in the kitchen with my grandmother, and not in the kitchen observing, but in the kitchen participating so that I could know it for myself. The story that I want Alamo Kitchens to write, and write not just for the city of San Antonio, but for Texas and the rest of the U.S. and maybe even the world, is that food really is medicine. And we were started because of my son's journey with medical issues and health concerns. And we discovered that you can heal yourself by what you eat. And we did that with him. So it's really important, particularly as we open the culinary playground, the new part of the kitchen, that we're showing people where food comes from, what you can do with it, how it interacts with you and your body. And we're allowing people to discover through hands-on, through asking questions, through tasting, what the amazing thing that food is for us. And the other part of our story is I care a lot about economic development. And I care a lot about small businesses who I really believe are the engine of our entire economy. And so Alamo Kitchens provides a space for those culinary masters to start up and grow, right? And so the story for us is twofold. Is how do we help other businesses start, pivot, and grow? How do we provide a safe space where they can practice their craft and they can help feed San Antonio? And then the other part is, on the culinary playground side, how do we continue to teach folks within our community about food and how to best leverage it to support their own health journey, their own mental health journey as well, because so much of what we consume, in terms of what we learn, in terms of what we eat, all that manifests itself in who we become. So in the kitchen, any chef that you talked to will say, we're going to mise en place. It's a French term that literally translates to things in place. And when we get ready to cook, you always prepare. So you know what your ingredients are, you know what your recipe is, you prep those ingredients before you begin to cook. And that's designed for lots of reasons. One, you make sure you have everything. It saves time. It helps the process. You can really then follow your recipe, and it should come out perfectly. So mising is important, but the most important thing is to recognize that things break. That even when we put everything in place, and that's okay. It's really important for us to recognize that it broke or it's breaking and pick it up, turn it around, and figure out what next. How do we either fix it? How do we change and pivot the path that we were going to go on so that we can keep moving forward? Because even when things don't go as planned, even when you got a shallot but it was really supposed to be a yellow onion, you gotta keep moving. And so over the last 6 years that we've been in this space, we've had a lot of things not go according to plan. And so be ready to pivot, right? Be ready to stop, evaluate what just happened, and then figure out what's next. And that's probably the thing that I take with me always.
Yeah, that is a really good life lesson. Like, you can't get stunted by expectations, by rigid expectations. Even like the last installation I did, I had this, prepping, like you just said, I had all these things, but then certain demands of life and the time frame, almost like a river or an ocean shaping a coastline, determined this is how it's going to be actually.
Yeah.
And it was still like, I still delivered a great show, but sometimes the other part is letting go.
Yes.
Of like, it has to be this way, otherwise it's a failure.
And so I think it's really important to have a plan and to have a roadmap of kind of how you're going to get there. What does that look like? Begin with the end in mind. We learned that in graduate school, right? Where do you want to go, and work backwards from there? All that's important, understanding where your journey is, but just recognizing that you probably are not going to follow the exact same path. When the space that we're sitting in was supposed to be open a year and a half ago, right? But things happened. Things broke. The process broke. We lost a person. We had to change our plans. Things didn't fit. But so you reevaluate. Now what? Because otherwise, I see a lot of people, when it doesn't happen the way they thought it was going to happen or where they planned for it to happen, they get stuck right there. And that doesn't help you get to ultimately where you want to be. Just go around, right? So, yeah.
I love it.
San Antonio is I've lived in lots of places, and San Antonio is probably the most special place that I've lived because it's so rich in culture, in opportunity, in community. And we exist because of the community. Alamo Kitchens would not exist without the community of people that helped us get here, and the community of people that allow us to stay here. We, until, we're about to start advertising, but in no significant way have we really advertised our space. But it's been through the community to say, this is what we're doing and here's what we're trying to do. Here's who we're trying to help. And folks rallying around and saying, yeah, because these people need you, and helping us build a larger community, right, of support. In the culinary world here, it's quite small. for it to be so rich. It's really a small space, and surprisingly, everybody wants to help you. Everyone within the space wants to help the people in the space, because we recognize that if you're strong, then I'm strong, right? We all have to grow in order for this to continue to be a significant space and a space for gastronomy. So for us, it's about staying connected to the people that are renting our space, staying connected to the people that are supporting economic development within San Antonio, trying the latest restaurants, because they're going to try some food in a way that maybe, based on my background or my experience, I would have never considered. And that's another way to stay relevant. But this is a great place to be, because San Antonio is committed to helping you grow so that it can grow. It sees that we need each other. There's a great yin and yang between the two.